The blood spreading across the worn apartment floor looked darker than Tanya Robinson ever imagined blood could look. She lay on her side, each breath sending sharp pain through her ribs, her vision blurring at the edges. The two men who had done this were long gone now, their angry voices and heavy footsteps fading down the stairwell minutes ago. They had come looking for money her ex-boyfriend Brandon owed them. When she told them she had nothing, they decided to make her pay anyway. "Mama, please wake up." The small voice came from somewhere far away, though Tanya knew her daughter Amara was right beside her. 6 years old and already seeing things no child should see. Tanya tried to speak, to tell Amara to call for help, but her mouth would not form words. The metallic taste of blood filled her mouth. She could feel consciousness slipping away like water through her fingers. Everything hurt. Her face throbbed where fists had connected. Her ribs screamed with every shallow breath. Her arms ached from trying to shield herself. "I'm going to get help, Mama. Don't die. Please don't die." Tanya wanted to tell her daughter not to leave, that it was not safe, but darkness crept in from the corners of her vision. She heard the apartment door open and close. Then nothing but the sound of her own labored breathing and the steady drip of something she did not want to think about. Outside, rain poured down in sheets. Amara ran through it in her thin yellow pajamas, her bare feet slapping against wet pavement. She did not know where she was going, only that Mama needed help and she needed it now. The apartment building behind her looked dark and scary. Nobody there had helped when Mama screamed. Nobody had even opened their doors. But Amara remembered the big house at the end of the street. She had walked past it with her mother before, admiring the pretty gardens and tall windows that glowed warm at night. Someone rich lived there. Rich people could help, could not they? Rich people had phones and cars and knew important people. Her small legs carried her 3 blocks through the storm. Cars passed by, their headlights cutting through the rain, but nobody stopped. She was just a little girl running in the rain, and people in this neighborhood had learned not to get involved. The mansion loomed before her, enormous and beautiful even in the dark. Lights blazed from inside, golden and warm. Amara stumbled up the long driveway, her chest heaving, tears mixing with rain on her face. She ran up the front steps and began pounding on the door with both fists. "Please, please open. My mama is dying. Please." She screamed as loud as her small voice could manage, hitting the door again and again. Inside, Christopher Bennett sat in his home office reviewing quarterly reports. At 35, he ran Bennett Technologies with the same precision and dedication his father had before him. But unlike his father, Christopher believed success meant nothing if you could not help others with it. He donated millions to charity each year, quietly and without fanfare. The pounding on his front door made him look up from his computer. Who would be knocking at this hour? It was nearly 11 at night. Then he heard the voice. A child's voice, desperate and terrified. Christopher ran to the door and pulled it open. A tiny girl stood there, soaked to the bone, shivering violently. Her brown eyes were huge with fear and tears. Blood was smeared on her yellow pajamas, though she did not appear to be injured herself. "Please help. They hurt my mama real bad. She's not moving. There's so much blood. Please, you have to help her." The words tumbled out of Amara in a rush. Christopher did not hesitate. He grabbed his phone from his pocket and dialed 911 while pulling the child inside out of the rain. "Where is your mother?" "How far?" "The apartments. 3 blocks that way." Amara pointed back the way she had come. "Apartment 2C. Please hurry. She's dying. I know she's dying." Christopher spoke rapidly to the 911 operator, giving all the information the child provided. Then he grabbed his car keys and a blanket from the hall closet. He wrapped it around Amara's shaking shoulders. "I'm Christopher. What's your name?" "Amara. Amara Robinson. My mama is Tanya." "Amara, the ambulance is coming. I'm going to drive you back to your mama right now. Is that okay?" The little girl nodded, relief flooding her face. Someone was listening. Someone was helping. Christopher carried her to his car, rain soaking his white shirt instantly. He buckled her into the passenger seat and started the engine. His heart pounded as he drove through the storm, following Amara's frantic directions. What kind of situation was he walking into? Who had hurt this child's mother? But those questions did not matter right now. What mattered was getting there fast. The apartment building looked exactly like the kind of place Christopher donated money to fix up. Crumbling brick, broken windows, trash in the gutters. He parked illegally and ran inside with Amara, taking the stairs 2 at a time to the second floor. Apartment 2C's door stood slightly ajar. Christopher pushed it open and immediately saw her. A woman lay motionless on the floor in a spreading pool of blood. She was beautiful even in this terrible moment, her dark skin contrasting with a bright blue nightgown. Her face was battered, swollen. One eye was completely shut. Blood ran from her nose and mouth. "Mama?" Amara tried to run to her, but Christopher caught her gently. "Let me check on her first, sweetheart." He knelt beside the woman, his hands shaking as he felt for a pulse. "There. Faint but there. Tanya? Can you hear me? Help is coming. You're going to be okay." The woman's one good eye fluttered open briefly. She looked at him with confusion and pain before closing again. Christopher heard sirens in the distance getting closer. He took off his jacket and carefully pillowed it under Tanya's head, talking to her softly the whole time. "Stay with me, Tanya. Your daughter is safe. She's right here. She was so brave. She got you help." Amara knelt beside him, clutching her mother's hand. "I brought help, Mama. Just like you taught me. I found someone good." Paramedics burst through the door moments later with equipment and urgent efficiency. Christopher stood back, pulling Amara with him as they worked on Tanya. He watched them check vital signs, start in 4, carefully examine injuries. Their faces were serious but professional. Severe facial trauma, possible broken ribs, significant blood loss, one paramedic reported to his partner. "We need to move her now." They lifted Tanya onto a stretcher with practiced care. Christopher made a split-second decision. "I'm coming with you. She has no one else." The paramedic started to protest, but something in Christopher's face stopped him. "Fine. Bring the kid too. She shouldn't stay here alone." In the ambulance, Christopher held Amara on his lap while paramedics worked frantically on Tanya. The child buried her face in his wet shirt, trembling with fear and cold. He wrapped his arms around her, murmuring reassurances he prayed would be true. "Your mama is strong. Look how hard they're working to help her. We'll stay with her. I promise." Amara looked up at him with those huge brown eyes. "You promise? You won't leave us?" Christopher felt something crack open in his chest. This child, this terrified little girl who had run through a storm to save her mother, trusted him completely. He would not let her down. "I promise. I'm not going anywhere." The ambulance raced through the night toward the hospital, sirens wailing. Christopher held Amara tight and prayed for a woman he did not even know. Would you really keep scrolling if this happened on your street? If a child knocked on your door begging for help, could you turn away? Please subscribe to see how kindness can change everything and comment below. Would you have opened the door? Your support helps us share more stories of hope. The hospital emergency room was chaos and bright lights and antiseptic smells. Christopher carried Amara through the automatic doors, following close behind the paramedics wheeling Tanya inside. Medical staff in bright blue scrubs swarmed immediately, shouting medical terms Christopher did not fully understand. 28-year-old female, multiple contusions, suspected internal bleeding, blood pressure dropping. They disappeared behind swinging doors marked, "Authorized personnel only." Christopher started to follow, but a nurse in green scrubs stopped him gently. "Sir, you need to wait here." "Are you family?" No. But I'm all she has right now. Her daughter needs." He looked down at Amara, who was clinging to his shirt with white-knuckled fists. The nurse's expression softened. She was an older African-American woman with kind eyes and gray threaded through her dark hair. Her name tag read Grace Henderson. "Come with me, honey. Let's get you both somewhere comfortable." "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Amara," the little girl whispered. "That's a beautiful name." "I'm Nurse Grace. Your mama is in the best hands, I promise. Dr. Chin is the best trauma surgeon we have." Christopher caught the mistake in her tired statement but said nothing. What mattered was that Tanya received good care. Grace led them to a small waiting room with blue plastic chairs and outdated magazines. "I need to get information for our records. Let's start with full names. The mother is Tanya Robinson. This is her daughter, Amara Robinson." Christopher paused. "My name is Christopher Bennett. I'm the one who brought them in." Grace's pen stopped moving. She looked up at him, recognition dawning. "Christopher Bennett? As in Bennett Technologies?" "Yes, ma'am." "Well." Grace's expression shifted to something between surprise and approval. "Amara is lucky she found your door." Over the next 20 minutes, Christopher answered what questions he could. He did not know Tanya's birth date, her insurance information, her medical history. He only knew what Amara could tell him. Mama was 28, they lived in apartment 2C, Mama used to be a nurse before she got hurt last year. "Hurt?" Grace asked gently. Amara's voice got very small. "Daddy pushed her down the stairs. She broke her arm. That's when we left." Christopher felt rage build in his chest. Not only had Tanya survived domestic violence, but tonight men had come and beaten her for debts that were not even hers. What kind of world did that to a woman just trying to protect her child? Grace must have seen something in his face because she reached out and patted his arm. "You did a good thing tonight, Mr. Bennett. Not many people would have opened their door." "How could I not? She's 6 years old and terrified. You'd be surprised how many people wouldn't have gotten involved." Grace stood up. "Let me see what I can find out about Tanya's condition. You two stay right here." "Amara, honey, are you hungry? Thirsty?" Amara shook her head, but Christopher could hear her stomach growl. "Maybe some juice and crackers?" he suggested. Grace smiled. "Coming right up." When they were alone, Amara finally spoke. "Is Mama going to die?" Christopher chose his words carefully. He had never been around children much, but he understood that lies would not help. "The doctors are doing everything they can to help her. Your mama is strong, Amara. She survived a lot already. And you were so brave tonight. You saved her life by getting help so fast." "I was scared." "Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing what needs to be done even when you're terrified." He pulled the blanket tighter around her small shoulders. "You ran through a storm in the dark to get help. That's one of the bravest things I've ever seen anyone do." Amara leaned against him, exhausted. "Thank you for helping us. Mama says there's still good people in the world. I think you're one of them." Christopher felt his throat tighten. When had someone last told him he was good? His life was board meetings and profit margins and strategy sessions. He gave money to charities, yes, but he signed checks. He did not hold terrified children in emergency rooms. He did not get blood on his clothes trying to comfort dying women. Maybe this was what being good actually looked like. Grace returned with juice boxes, crackers, and a blanket. "Still in surgery," she reported quietly to Christopher while Amara drank. "It could be a few hours." "I'll wait." "What about her father? Should we try to contact him?" "No." Amara's voice was fierce suddenly. "Don't call Daddy. He's mean. He'll hurt Mama more." Grace and Christopher exchanged glances. "Okay, sweetheart. We won't call him." The hours crawled by. Amara eventually fell asleep curled up on 2 chairs pushed together, covered in blankets. Christopher could not sleep. He paced the waiting room, called his assistant Patricia to cancel tomorrow's meetings, and prayed more than he had in years. At 3 in the morning, a surgeon in blue scrubs came into the waiting room. She looked exhausted but satisfied. "Family of Tanya Robinson?" Christopher stood up immediately. I'm here for her. Is she okay?" "She's stable. We repaired a lacerated spleen, set 3 broken ribs, and treated extensive soft tissue damage. She lost a lot of blood but she's young and strong. She should make a full recovery with time." Christopher actually felt his knees go weak with relief. "Can I see her?" "She's in recovery now. She'll be moved to ICU in about an hour. You can see her then but only for a few minutes. She'll be unconscious for a while." The surgeon paused. "I have to ask, did she file a police report?" These injuries were clearly from an assault. "Not yet. It happened just a few hours ago. I can call the police now if that helps." "Please do. Women like her need protection from whoever did this." After the surgeon left, Christopher called the police. He explained the situation as best he could. They promised to send officers to take a report and investigate the apartment. When Amara woke at dawn, Christopher had news that made her cry with relief. "Your mama made it through surgery. She's going to be okay. Can I see her?" "Soon, sweetheart. Very soon." At 6 in the morning, Nurse Grace led them to the ICU. Tanya lay in a bed surrounded by monitors and tubes. Her face was swollen and bruised, almost unrecognizable. But her chest rose and fell steadily. Amara climbed onto a chair beside the bed and carefully took her mother's hand. "I'm here, Mama. Mr. Christopher helped us. You're safe now." Christopher stood back, watching this tiny family reunited. When a hospital administrator came by asking about payment and insurance, Christopher did not hesitate. "I'll cover all expenses. All of them. Whatever she needs." The administrator blinked. "Sir, do you understand that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars? Surgery, ICU care, recovery, physical therapy. I don't care what it costs. She gets the best care available. Send all bills to me personally." He handed over his business card. The administrator looked at the card and her eyes widened. "Mr. Bennett, this is extraordinarily generous. It's just the right thing to do." Christopher looked at Tanya's battered face, at Amara holding her mother's hand. Nobody should have to worry about medical bills while they're fighting for their life. As dawn light filtered through the hospital windows, Christopher made another call. This one to his lawyer. I need you to do something for me. A woman and her daughter need protection from an abusive ex and his associates. I want restraining orders, police protection, whatever it takes to keep them safe. Money is no object. His lawyer promised to handle it immediately. Christopher returned to Tanya's bedside and sat in the chair on the other side of the bed from Amara. He barely knew these two people. But somehow in one night, they had become his responsibility. And he would not fail them. 3 days passed before Tanya's eyes opened. 3 days of doctors checking monitors, nurses adjusting medications, and Amara refusing to leave her mother's side except when Christopher gently insisted she needed food and rest. Christopher had stayed at the hospital almost constantly. Patricia brought him changes of clothes and handled everything at the office. His board of directors grumbled about his absence, but Christopher did not care. Some things were more important than quarterly reports. When Tanya finally woke, it was early morning. Sunlight streamed through the hospital window, bright and warm. Her one eye that could still open fully fluttered, then focused. The first thing she saw was her daughter asleep in a chair, wrapped in a blue blanket. The second thing she saw was a man she did not know sitting in another chair, reading a newspaper. Tanya tried to speak but her throat was too dry. She made a small sound instead. Christopher's head snapped up immediately. You're awake. Let me call the nurse. He pressed the call button, then moved closer. Don't try to talk yet. Your throat is probably sore from the breathing tube during surgery. Surgery? Tanya's mind felt foggy. She remembered the men breaking into her apartment. She remembered pain and blood and Amara's terrified face. Then nothing. Nurse Grace hurried in, all efficiency and warm smiles. Well, look who decided to join us. Welcome back, Tanya. You gave us quite a scare. Over the next hour, Grace checked vital signs, gave Tanya ice chips, and gradually helped her sit up slightly. The pain medication made everything feel distant and soft around the edges. What happened? Tanya finally managed to whisper. Grace looked at Christopher, who nodded. You were attacked 3 nights ago. Your daughter Amara ran for help. Mr. Bennett here brought you to the hospital. You had emergency surgery. Tanya's good eye moved to Christopher. Really looked at him for the first time. He was handsome in that polished, wealthy way that usually made her uncomfortable. White button-down shirt, expensive watch, kind blue eyes. Why would someone like him help someone like her? Thank you, she whispered. You don't need to thank me. Christopher's voice was gentle. I'm just glad Amara found my house. Amara? Tanya tried to reach for her daughter, but her body hurt too much. She's fine. She's been right here the whole time. She only fell asleep an hour ago. Christopher smiled slightly. She's incredibly brave. She saved your life. Tears leaked from Tanya's eyes, burning in the cuts on her face. Her baby girl had to run through the night alone because Tanya could not protect them. Because Brandon's choices kept destroying their lives even after she left him. Hey, don't cry. You're safe now. Christopher looked uncomfortable with her tears but determined to help. The police arrested the men who did this. They confessed to the assault. Your ex-boyfriend Brandon is being investigated too. I can't afford this. Tanya looked around the private ICU room at all the machines at the 4 bags. I don't have insurance. I can't. Already taken care of, Christopher said firmly. All of it. You don't need to worry about money. But I can't let you. Tanya started to protest, but Grace cut her off. Honey, let the man help you. Pride is fine, but right now you need to focus on healing. Accept the blessing. Tanya wanted to argue. She had learned the hard way that nothing came free, that accepting help from men always came with strings attached. But looking at Christopher's open, honest face, she could not find any hidden agenda. He just looked concerned and kind. Okay, she whispered. Thank you. Really? Christopher smiled, and Tanya noticed it reached his eyes. You're welcome. Over the next few days, as Tanya grew stronger, she learned more about the man who had saved her life. Christopher visited every morning before work and every evening after. He brought Amara coloring books and new clothes since they could not go back to the apartment yet. He never asked for anything in return. Nurse Grace filled in the rest. That man has paid for everything. Private room, best doctors, round-the-clock care. He's even arranging for physical therapy and counseling for both of you. I've been a nurse for 30 years and I've never seen anything like it. Why would he do all this? Tanya asked. Because some people are just good, honey. Hard as that is to believe sometimes. Detective Morrison came by on day 5 to take Tanya's official statement. She was a middle-aged white woman with sharp eyes and a gentle manner. She asked questions Tanya did not want to answer about Brandon's abuse, about why she never reported it before, about the men who attacked her. Kyle Porter and Todd Harrison, Detective Morrison said. They worked with your ex at a construction company. They said Brandon owed money to some dangerous people and told them you had cash hidden in the apartment. I don't have anything, Tanya whispered. I work minimum wage jobs. I had maybe $200 saved. I know. They know that now too. They're looking at 10 to 15 years for aggravated assault. And we're building a case against Brandon for conspiracy and his past domestic violence. Multiple charges. Christopher, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, spoke up. What about protection for Tanya and Amara when they leave the hospital? Restraining orders are already in place. Brandon is being watched. If he comes anywhere near them, he goes straight to jail. Not good enough, Christopher said firmly. I want private security. Mr. Bennett, I can't stop you from hiring security, but these men are behind bars. They're not a threat right now. Right now. What about when they make bail? Christopher's voice was harder than Tanya had heard before. What about their friends? Anyone else who might think Tanya knows where money is hidden? Detective Morrison sighed. You make a fair point. After the detective left, Tanya looked at Christopher with new understanding. You're really worried about us. Of course I am. He seemed surprised she would even question it. You and Amara have been through enough. I want to make sure you're safe. But why do you care so much? You don't even know us. Christopher was quiet for a long moment. When I opened my door and saw Amara standing there, terrified and begging for help, something changed for me. I realized I've been living in my big house, making my big business deals, and not really connecting with actual people. You and Amara reminded me what matters. Tanya felt something shift in her chest. Maybe Grace was right. Maybe some people really were just good. When can I leave the hospital? She asked. Another week or so, Christopher said. Your ribs need more time to heal and they want to make sure there's no infection. And then what? I can't go back to that apartment. Tanya's voice cracked. I don't have anywhere to go. Christopher leaned forward, his expression serious but kind. I have a guest house on my property. It's fully furnished, completely separate from the main house. You and Amara can stay there as long as you need to. No rent, no strings attached. Christopher, I can't. Yes, you can. And you will. For Amara's sake, if not your own. She needs a safe place to grow up. Let me give you both that chance. Tanya looked at her daughter, who was coloring a picture of flowers at the small table by the window. Amara deserved better than running from men in the dark. She deserved a yard to play in, a safe bed to sleep in, a chance at a normal childhood. Okay, Tanya said quietly. We'll stay in your guest house. But only until I can get back on my feet. I want to work, to contribute. I won't be a charity case forever. You're not a charity case. You're a woman who needs help right now. And when you're ready to work, we'll figure that out too. Christopher smiled. I've been told my company has a terrible employee wellness program. Maybe you could fix that. You were a nurse, right? I was. Before Brandon. She stopped, not wanting to finish that sentence. Then when you're ready, there's a job waiting for you. If you want it. Tanya felt hope bloom in her chest for the first time in years. Real hope, not the desperate kind that always got crushed. This felt different. This felt real. Thank you, Christopher. For everything. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You don't have to repay me. Just get better. Be happy. That's all the payment I need. As the sun set outside her hospital window, painting everything gold and pink, Tanya let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, things were finally going to be okay. 2 weeks after she first woke up, Tanya was finally discharged from the hospital. She could walk without too much pain now, though her ribs still ached and her face remained bruised in fading shades of yellow and purple. The doctors had done good work. She would have some scars, but nothing that wouldn't heal with time. Christopher arrived at the hospital early that morning with Patricia Walsh, his executive assistant. Patricia was a warm woman in her early 60s with silver hair and bright green eyes. She wore a professional maroon blazer and carried shopping bags. I took the liberty of buying you both some clothes, Patricia said, her voice kind but matter-of-fact. Just basics to start. We can go shopping for more later once you're settled. Tanya wanted to protest the expense, but Amara's excited squeal as she pulled out a bright red dress stopped her. Mama, look. It's so pretty. What do you say, baby? Thank you, Miss Patricia. You're very welcome, sweetheart. Patricia handed Tanya a bag containing jeans, comfortable shirts in blue and green, and even new shoes. Everything fit perfectly. In the hospital bathroom, Tanya looked at herself in the mirror for the first time since the attack. Her reflection made her want to cry. The beautiful face she had taken for granted was swollen and discolored. Her lip was still split. A scar ran through her eyebrow where stitches had been. But she was alive. And that had to be enough. She dressed in soft blue jeans and a comfortable green sweater. Even these simple clothes felt like luxury after 2 weeks in hospital gowns. When she emerged, Christopher's expression said everything. Not pity but respect. He looked at her like she was strong. "Ready to see your new place?" he asked. The drive to Christopher's estate took 20 minutes through increasingly nice neighborhoods. Tanya watched the houses get bigger, the yards more manicured. Amara pressed her face to the car window, eyes wide. When they pulled through iron gates onto Christopher's property, Tanya's breath caught. The main house was enormous, a 3-story mansion of brick and windows. But Christopher drove past it to a smaller building set back among trees and gardens. The guest house was still bigger than any place Tanya had ever lived. 2 stories, painted a cheerful yellow with white trim and a bright blue door. A small porch wrapped around the front. Flowers bloomed in beds along the walkway. This is too much," Tanya whispered. "It's been empty for 2 years, Christopher said. "I'd rather see it being used, making people happy." Inside was even better. The first floor had an open living room with comfortable blue furniture, a kitchen with modern appliances, and a dining area with a table that could seat 6. Bright sunlight poured through large windows. Upstairs were 2 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom. The larger bedroom had a queen bed with a green comforter. The smaller had a twin bed with a red and yellow quilt. Both rooms were clean and ready, as if expecting them. "How did you?" Tanya started to ask. "Patricia," Christopher and Patricia said at the same time, then laughed. "I had a cleaning service come through yesterday," Patricia explained. "Stocked the kitchen with basics, made up the beds, brought in fresh towels. Everything you need to settle in immediately." Amara ran from room to room, her delighted laughter echoing through the house. "Mama, I have my own room. Come see." Tanya followed her daughter upstairs and found Amara bouncing on the bed, grinning wider than she had in months. "Maybe years. Do you like it?" Christopher asked from the doorway, sounding almost nervous. "Like it? Christopher, this is..." Tanya felt tears threaten again. "This is the nicest place we've ever lived. I don't know what to say." "Say you'll stay. Say you'll let yourself heal here." He smiled. "And say you'll have dinner with me tonight so we can discuss that job I mentioned." Tanya laughed despite herself. "You're really serious about that?" "Completely serious. Bennett Technologies has 500 employees and no dedicated health services beyond basic first aid kits. I've been thinking we need a company nurse or health coordinator. Someone to do wellness checks, manage health insurance concerns, maybe organize health fairs or fitness programs." He paused. "I think you'd be perfect for it. I've been out of nursing for almost 2 years. Skills like yours don't just disappear. And you'd be helping people, which I think you're naturally good at." Christopher's expression was earnest. "Think about it at least. No pressure. Focus on healing first." After Christopher and Patricia left, giving them space to settle in, Tanya and Amara explored their new home thoroughly. The kitchen had food in the pantry and refrigerator. The bathrooms had soap and shampoo. The closets had extra blankets and pillows. Someone, probably Patricia, had even left a vase of fresh flowers on the kitchen table with a note. "Welcome home." Home. Tanya had not had a real home in so long. Just a series of apartments and shelters and temporary places where they counted the days until they had to move again. That evening, Christopher returned with takeout from a nice restaurant. They sat at the dining table, the 3 of them eating chicken and vegetables while Amara told Christopher about every detail of the house. "And my room has a window that looks at the garden and I can see flowers, and there's a bookshelf, and Mama says we can get books to fill it, and..." Christopher listened to every word like it was the most important thing he had ever heard. He asked questions and made suggestions and promised to take her to a bookstore soon. After dinner, when Amara was distracted with a new coloring book Patricia had included, Christopher brought up the job again. "I meant what I said. I want to offer you a position as our health and wellness coordinator. Starting salary is $65,000 a year, full benefits, 3 weeks vacation." Tanya nearly choked on her water. "65,000? Christopher, that's fair pay for an important position." He was firm on this. "You'd be responsible for employee health, coordinating with our insurance providers, managing workplace safety protocols, and developing wellness programs. It's real work, Tanya. Not charity. When would you want me to start?" "Whenever you're ready." Take a month to heal. Take 2 months. The job will be there when you're ready for it. Tanya looked around the beautiful house, at her daughter happily coloring, at this man who had saved their lives and kept saving them. Why are you doing all this? Christopher was quiet for a moment. Because I can. Because it's right. And because watching you and Amara start to smile again makes me happier than closing any business deal ever has. I accept, Tanya said quietly. The job, I mean. I'll start as soon as the doctor clears me. And Christopher? Thank you. Not just for the job or the house. For giving us hope again. You gave me something too, Christopher said. Purpose. A reason to use my resources for something that really matters. That night, after Christopher left and Amara was asleep in her new bed, Tanya stood at the window looking out at the gardens. The moon was bright overhead, stars scattered across the sky. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt safe. She thought about the terrified woman lying on her apartment floor 2 weeks ago, certain she was dying. She thought about Amara running through the storm. She thought about how one knock on a door, one act of kindness, had changed everything. Tomorrow she would call her physical therapist and start the work of getting strong again. Next week she would visit Bennett Technologies to learn about her new job. Next month she would enroll Amara in a good school nearby. But tonight she just breathed. Just let herself feel safe and grateful and hopeful. Kindness had found them. And Tanya was determined to deserve it, to pay it forward, to become the kind of person who opened doors for others the way Christopher had opened his door for them. A new beginning. That's what this was. And Tanya intended to make the most of it. The first month in the guest house passed in a gentle blur of healing and routine. Tanya attended physical therapy 3 times a week, gradually rebuilding her strength. Christopher's doctor was thorough and kind, never rushing her, celebrating every milestone. The day she could take a full breath without pain, she cried with relief. Amara thrived. Christopher kept his promise about the bookstore, taking her to choose a whole shelf of books. He came by most evenings after work, often with Patricia, sometimes alone. He helped Amara with homework she was catching up on. He taught her to plant seeds in the garden. He listened to her chatter about everything and nothing. Tanya watched these interactions carefully at first, still waiting for the other shoe to drop, for Christopher to want something in return. But as weeks passed and he remained steady, kind, and respectful of boundaries, she started to relax. Started to trust. You're good with her, Tanya said one evening as they watched Amara chase fireflies in the garden at dusk. She makes it easy. Christopher smiled, then added quietly, I never thought I'd be good with kids. Guess I never gave myself the chance to try. Why not? You must have women lining up. Christopher laughed. Patricia asks me the same question. Truth is, I've been married to my company for 10 years. Building something my father would be proud of. His expression grew distant. He died when I was 25. Left me everything. I've spent the last decade trying to prove I deserved it. I'm sure he'd be proud of what you've built. Maybe. But I think he'd be more proud of this. Christopher gestured at Amara, at the garden, at Tanya. Actually helping people instead of just signing checks for charity boards. Before Tanya could respond, Amara ran up breathless and glowing. Mr. Chris, did you see? I caught 3 fireflies and let them all go so they could be free. I saw. That was very kind of you. Mama says we should always be kind. Even to bugs. Christopher met Tanya's eyes over Amara's head, his expression warm. Your mama is a very wise woman. 6 weeks after leaving the hospital, Tanya's doctor cleared her to return to work. She felt nervous and excited and terrified all at once. It had been almost 2 years since she wore professional clothes and cared for patients. What if she had forgotten everything? What if she messed up? Christopher seemed to sense her anxiety. The night before her first day, he came by with dinner and reassurance. You're going to be amazing. Everyone is excited to meet you. What if they resent me? I mean, you're the CEO. They might think I got the job just because. Because I admire your skills and credentials? Because you have years of nursing experience and a genuine passion for helping people? Those are exactly the reasons you got the job. Christopher's voice was firm. Yes, we met under unusual circumstances. But I wouldn't offer you a position you weren't qualified for. That wouldn't help you or the company. Tanya took a deep breath. Okay, you're right. I can do this. I know you can. The next morning, Tanya dressed in navy blue slacks and a professional green blouse. She tied her hair back, checked her reflection, and barely recognized the confident woman looking back. The bruises had faded to nothing. The scars were there but minimal. She looked like someone who had survived something terrible and come out stronger. Patricia picked her up at 8, chattering cheerfully about the office layout and the people she would meet. Bennett Technologies occupied a modern building downtown, all glass and steel and open spaces. Employees wore everything from suits to jeans, creating a casual but professional atmosphere. Jerome Miller, the HR director, met them in the lobby. He was a tall African-American man in his mid-40s with an easy smile and a maroon tie. "Tanya, welcome to Bennett Technologies. We're so glad to have you." "Thank you, Mr. Miller." "Jerome, please. We're pretty informal around here." He led her through the building, showing her the cafeteria, the gym, the various department floors. "Christopher wanted you to have a proper office, not just a nurse's station. Second floor, corner office, great natural light." The office took Tanya's breath away. It was spacious and bright with large windows overlooking the city. A new desk held a computer and phone. Medical supplies were organized in cabinets along one wall. A comfortable couch and chairs created a small consultation area. This is too much," Tanya stammered. "This is what we provide for department heads," Jerome corrected gently. "And health and wellness is now an official department. You're not just a nurse, Tanya. You're our employee advocate for all things health-related. That deserves a real office." Over the next several hours, Jerome walked her through her responsibilities. Managing employee health records. Coordinating with the insurance provider. Running health screenings. Developing wellness initiatives. It was overwhelming but exciting. "Start small," Jerome advised. "Get to know the employees. Build trust. The fancy programs can come later. Right now, just let people know you're here and you care." So that's what Tanya did. She spent the first week walking around the building, introducing herself to different departments. She asked people about their health concerns, their ideas for wellness programs. She listened more than she talked. The employees responded warmly. Many were surprised to learn Bennett Technologies now had a dedicated health coordinator. Several made appointments immediately for basic checkups or to discuss chronic health conditions. By the end of the first week, Tanya felt energized in a way she had not felt in years. This was what she had trained for. This was her purpose. Christopher stopped by her office Friday afternoon, leaning in the doorway with a smile. "So, how was week 1? "Exhausting. Overwhelming. Perfect." Tanya grinned. "Thank you for this opportunity, Christopher. Really. Thank you for taking it. I've already heard great feedback." He paused. "Would you and Amara like to come to dinner at the main house tomorrow night? Patricia is cooking and I'd like you to meet some friends." Tanya hesitated only briefly before agreeing. She was tired of keeping Christopher at arm's length out of fear. He had proven himself over and over. Time to start trusting that this was real. Saturday evening, they walked across the estate to the main house. Tanya wore a nice green dress that Patricia had helped her pick out during a shopping trip. Amara twirled in a bright yellow dress with a red ribbon. The main house interior was elegant but comfortable. High ceilings and expensive art, but also family photos and lived-in furniture. Patricia was in the kitchen creating magic with pasta and herbs. 2 other guests were already there. Jerome from HR and Grace Henderson, the nurse from the hospital. "Grace!" Tanya exclaimed. "What are you doing here?" Grace hugged her warmly. "Christopher mentioned you were doing well and invited me to see for myself. I hope you don't mind." "Mind? I'm so happy to see you." The dinner was warm and full of laughter. They ate at a large dining table in a bright dining room, passing dishes and sharing stories. Amara charmed everyone with her chatter about her new school and the garden. "She's a different child than the terrified little girl I met in the ER," Grace observed quietly. "You both are." "We feel different," Tanya agreed. "Safe. Hopeful. Things I didn't think we'd ever feel again." After dinner, while Amara played with a puzzle in the living room, the adults moved to a comfortable sitting area. Christopher opened up about his loneliness before meeting them, his sense that success was empty without connection. Patricia shared stories about her late husband and how she had rebuilt her life after his death. Jerome talked about the foster care system that raised him and his determination to help others. Everyone there had stories of struggle and survival. Everyone understood what it meant to need help and receive it. Everyone understood what it meant to pay kindness forward. As the evening ended and Tanya and Amara walked back to the guest house under the stars, Amara took her mother's hand. "I like it here, Mama. I like Mr. Chris and Miss Patricia and everybody. Can we stay forever?" Tanya squeezed her daughter's hand. "We'll stay as long as they'll have us, baby. As long as we're welcome." But looking back at the main house, at Christopher's silhouette in the window watching to make sure they got home safe, Tanya had a feeling they would always be welcome here. This was becoming more than a temporary stop. This was becoming home. And for the first time in her life, Tanya was not afraid to let herself believe in that. 3 months after starting at Bennett Technologies, Tanya had transformed the employee wellness program into something real and meaningful. She organized monthly health screenings, brought in specialists for lunch and learn sessions about nutrition and stress management, and created a peer support network for employees dealing with chronic conditions. Participation rates were high and climbing. "You've done more in 3 months than the last HR director did in 3 years, Jerome told her one afternoon. "People actually look forward to your emails." Tanya laughed. "I just try to remember that everyone is dealing with something, even if you can't see it." She had fallen into a comfortable rhythm. Work during the day, dinner most evenings with Amara, occasional visits to the main house to share meals with Christopher. He came by the guest house less frequently now, seeming to sense that Tanya needed space to build her independence. But when they did spend time together, the conversations grew deeper. One Saturday in October, Christopher invited them to a company picnic at a local park. Tanya dressed in a flowing green sundress and sandals. Amara wore a bright blue shorts set and mismatched socks she insisted were lucky. The weather was perfect, cool and sunny with leaves just beginning to turn colors. The park was full of Bennett Technologies employees and their families. Kids ran wild on playground equipment while adults lounged on blankets and grilled food. Music played from portable speakers. Laughter carried on the breeze. Christopher, for once dressed casually in jeans and a navy polo, worked the grill with Jerome. They were laughing about something, trading stories with other employees. Tanya watched him from a picnic table where she sat with Patricia and Grace. "That man looks at you like you hung the moon," Grace observed. "What? No, he doesn't." Tanya felt her cheeks heat. "We're just friends." Patricia and Grace exchanged knowing looks. "Honey, I've worked for Christopher for 8 years, Patricia said. "I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Not business associates, not dates Patricia sets him up on, not anyone. He's been kind to us. That's all." "That's not all and you know it." Grace's voice was gentle. "And the question is, do you feel the same way?" Did she? Tanya had been asking herself that question for weeks now. Christopher was handsome and kind and generous. He made her laugh. He was wonderful with Amara. He treated her like an equal, not a charity case. When he smiled at her, her heart did strange fluttery things. But she was terrified. Brandon had seemed kind at first too. He had swept her off her feet with romance and promises, then slowly isolated her from friends and family. By the time she realized the danger, she was trapped. "I'm scared," Tanya admitted quietly. "What if I'm wrong about him? What if he changes?" "Oh, honey." Patricia reached across the table to squeeze her hand. "Christopher Bennett is nothing like your ex. I promise you that. The man barely takes a day off work, but he's missed more meetings in the last 3 months than in his entire career before that. You know why? Because he's building a life, not just a business. And if you don't believe us," Grace added, "watch how he is with Amara. You can tell everything about a person by how they treat children. He adores that little girl. And more importantly, she trusts him completely." Tanya looked across the park to where Christopher was now playing tag with a group of kids including Amara. He was running and laughing, letting the kids catch him, then chasing them with exaggerated slowness. Amara's giggles carried clearly across the grass. Her daughter had not laughed like that when Brandon was around. She had been quiet and anxious, always waiting for the yelling to start. With Christopher she was free to be a child. Later that afternoon, after most families had left, Tanya and Christopher sat on a blanket watching Amara play on the swings. The sun was low, casting everything in golden light, and the air smelled of autumn leaves and wood smoke from a distant fire. "Today was nice," Tanya said. "Your employees really like you. They're good people. I'm lucky to work with them." Christopher paused. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure. Are you happy? Here, I mean. At the company, in the guest house. With this life we've built?" Tanya considered the question seriously. "I am. Happier than I've been in longer than I can remember. You gave us that, Christopher. A chance to breathe, to be safe, to build something good. I'm glad." He was quiet for a moment. "But there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have said weeks ago." Tanya's stomach clenched with anxiety. Here it comes, she thought. The condition. The expectation. "I care about you, Tanya. More than I should, probably. More than is smart considering I'm technically your boss." Christopher's voice was careful, honest. "I'm not asking for anything. I'm not expecting you to feel the same way. I just needed you to know. I needed to be honest." Tanya's heart pounded. This was the moment. The turning point. She could say she did not feel the same, keep everything safe and professional. Or she could be honest too. Be brave. I care about you too, she said quietly. It scares me how much. I keep waiting for you to turn into someone else, someone dangerous. But you never do. You just keep being kind. I'm not perfect, Tanya. I work too much, I'm terrible at remembering to eat, and I have no idea what I'm doing with relationships. But I promise I'll never hurt you. Never. I want to believe that. Then believe it. Give me a chance to prove it. Tanya looked at him, really looked. At his open, honest face. At the way he watched her like she was precious. At the gentle smile that made her feel safe. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Christopher's smile was brilliant. He reached across the blanket and took her hand, linking their fingers together. They sat like that as the sun set, watching Amara play, neither speaking because no words were needed. From that evening forward, something shifted between them. It was still mostly the same, shared dinners and conversations and time with Amara. But now there were also held hands and meaningful glances. Soft smiles across rooms. A growing sense that this was heading somewhere real. Tanya still had moments of fear, times when old memories crashed in and made her doubt. But Christopher was patient. He never pushed, never demanded. He let her set the pace, respecting every boundary she needed. One evening in late October, after Amara was asleep, they sat on the guest house porch sharing a bottle of wine. The air was cold enough to require blankets, but Tanya did not want to go inside yet. The stars overhead were too beautiful. Can I ask you something? Christopher said. Always. What are your dreams? Beyond safety, beyond stability. If you could have any life you wanted, what would it look like? Tanya thought about it seriously. I want Amara to grow up confident and kind. I want to be good at my job, really good. Help a lot of people. She paused. And I want to be happy. Really deeply happy. The kind of happy I've only read about in books. That doesn't seem like too much to ask. Doesn't it? For a long time, I thought happiness wasn't in the cards for people like me. People who made bad choices, who ended up in bad situations. You didn't make bad choices, Christopher said firmly. You loved someone who turned out to be not who you thought he was. That's not a moral failing. That's just life being complicated. Tanya felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. Christopher shifted closer. And I want to be part of that happy ending you're dreaming of. If you'll let me. This time when he reached for her hand, Tanya did not just hold it. She raised it to her lips and kissed his knuckles gently. I'd like that. A lot. They stayed on the porch until the cold drove them inside, talking about everything and nothing. About childhood dreams and adult realities. About fears and hopes and the uncertain future they were building together. When Christopher finally left that night, he paused at the door. Can I kiss you good night? Tanya's heart raced. This would be the first kiss since Brandon, the first time she let someone that close. But looking at Christopher's patient, kind face, she knew she was ready. Yes. He kissed her softly, gently, like she was something fragile and valuable. It was nothing like the demanding, controlling kisses she remembered. This was tender. This was a question and an answer all at once. When they pulled apart, Christopher smiled. Good night, Tanya. Good night, Christopher. As she watched him walk back to the main house, Tanya touched her lips and smiled. Maybe happiness was in the cards after all. Maybe she deserved this. Maybe everything that happened before was just clearing the path to get here. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Tanya went to bed without any nightmares. The next 2 weeks felt like a beautiful dream. Christopher and Tanya grew closer, their relationship deepening in quiet, steady ways. They found rhythms together. Coffee in the mornings before work, shared lunch breaks at the office, family dinners with Amara, evenings talking on the porch. It felt right. It felt like home. Amara noticed the change, of course. Children always did. Are you and Mr. Chris going to get married? She asked one night while Tanya tucked her into bed. I don't know, baby. Maybe someday. Would that be okay with you? Amara's grin was answer enough. Then he'd be my real dad and we'd all live in the big house and have a puppy. Tanya laughed. One step at a time, sweetheart. But she could not help imagining it. The three of them as a real family. More than just survival, more than just safety. Something built on love and trust. Then, on a cold November morning, everything shifted. Tanya was at her office organizing files for upcoming flu shot clinics when her phone rang. An unfamiliar number. She almost did not answer, but something made her pick up. Is this Tanya Robinson? A man's voice, formal and official. Yes. Who is this? This is Officer Davis with the county jail. I'm calling to inform you that Brandon Tucker has been released on bail pending his trial. The world seemed to tilt sideways. What? Oh, they said. There was a bail hearing yesterday. His lawyer convinced the judge he wasn't a flight risk. He posted bail this morning. Tanya's hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. Brandon was out. After everything, after the attack, after finally feeling safe, he was out. What does this mean for me? For my daughter? The restraining order is still in effect. He's not allowed within 500 feet of you or your residence. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. But I wanted to inform you directly so you could take appropriate precautions. After the officer hung up, Tanya sat frozen at her desk. She should call Christopher. She should tell Patricia. She should do something. But terror had locked her muscles in place. Brandon was out. He knew she had testified against him. He knew she was the reason he faced years in prison. What would he do? A knock on her office door made her jump. Jerome stood there with a concerned expression. Tanya? You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Brandon, my ex, he made bail. Jerome's expression hardened. Christopher needs to know. Now. Within 20 minutes, Tanya sat in Christopher's large office on the top floor. Christopher, Jerome, and Patricia all listened as she explained the phone call. Christopher's face grew progressively more serious, more determined. We need to increase security, he said immediately. I want guards at the estate, surveillance cameras, the whole system. And we're changing your work schedule for now. Remote work until we know you're safe. Christopher, I can't just hide. You're not hiding. You're being smart. His voice was gentle but firm. Brandon is unpredictable and angry. We don't take chances with you and Amara's safety. That afternoon, Christopher's security team descended on the estate. Cameras went up at every entrance and along the property boundaries. A guard was stationed at the main gate. Another patrolled the grounds. Christopher moved Tanya and Amara into the main house temporarily, insisting they stay close where he could protect them. Tanya hated feeling like prey again. She had worked so hard to feel safe, to feel strong. Now she was back to looking over her shoulder, jumping at unexpected sounds. 3 days after Brandon's release, he showed up at Bennett Technologies. Tanya was working from Christopher's home office when Patricia called her cell. Don't panic, but Brandon is here. In the lobby. Demanding to see you. What? How did he even know where I work? I don't know. But security has him contained and Christopher is handling it. I just wanted you to know. Tanya's hands shook as she hung up. She should stay here, stay safe. But she also needed to know what Brandon wanted. Needed to face this rather than hide. Against her better judgment, she drove to the office. Security let her in through a side entrance and escorted her upstairs. From Christopher's office window, she could see the lobby below through interior glass walls. Brandon stood there, looking thinner and angrier than she remembered. His face was hard, his movements agitated. 2 security guards flanked him while Christopher stood a few feet away, arms crossed, every inch the powerful CO. Tanya could not hear the conversation, but she could read body language. Brandon was yelling, gesturing wildly. Christopher remained calm, steady, unmoved. After several minutes, Christopher said something that made Brandon's face turn red with rage. Security began escorting him toward the exit. Brandon tried to pull away, but the guards were professional and firm. Then Brandon looked up and saw Tanya in the window. Their eyes met across the distance. His expression was pure hatred, pure threat. He shouted something Tanya could not hear, but she did not need to. She understood the message clearly. This is not over. Security removed him from the building. Christopher came upstairs immediately, finding Tanya shaking in his office. You shouldn't have come here, he said, pulling her into his arms. I needed to see him. To know. Tanya buried her face in Christopher's shoulder. What did he want? Money primarily. He seems to think I'm paying you to be with me, that you've got access to my accounts. Christopher's voice was tight with controlled anger. I told him he was delusional and trespassing. I told him if he comes near you or Amara, I'll use every resource I have to bury him. He's not going to stop. Then neither will we. I've hired a private investigator to monitor his movements. My lawyer is working with the prosecutor to revoke his bail. We're building a case that will put him away for a very long time. Tanya pulled back to look at Christopher's face. Why are you doing all this? You could just ask me to leave, make your life simpler. Because I love you. The words came out fierce and certain. I love you and Amara, and I will protect this family with everything I have. It was the first time either of them had said it. Love. Real actual love. Not the toxic, controlling version Brandon had offered. This was something clean and true. "I love you too," Tanya whispered. "I'm so scared, but I love you." Christopher kissed her forehead. "We'll get through this. Together." That evening, back at the estate with guards watching the perimeter, Tanya tried to act normal for Amara's sake. They made dinner together, did homework, played games. But the tension underneath was thick and choking. After Amara went to bed, Tanya and Christopher sat in the living room of the main house. He had built a fire in the fireplace, and its warm light flickered across comfortable furniture. "I need you to make me a promise," Christopher said quietly. "What kind of promise?" "That you won't let Brandon drive you away. That you'll fight for this life we're building." Tanya looked at the fire, at the beautiful room, at this man who loved her. "I promise. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of letting fear win." "Good." Christopher took her hand. "Because I'm not going anywhere either. We face this together." As they sat there in comfortable silence, Tanya felt determination harden in her chest. She had survived Brandon's violence before. She had rebuilt her life from nothing. She had found love and safety and purpose. She was not giving that up without a fight. Whatever came next, whatever Brandon tried, she would be ready. She had Christopher beside her, friends supporting her, and her own strength that had never truly broken. This time she would not just survive. She would win. The next 2 weeks were tense but quiet. Brandon did not try to approach again. Christopher's private investigator reported that he was staying at a motel across town, meeting with his lawyer, but otherwise keeping a low profile. "Too low," Christopher said. Men like Brandon did not just back down. But life had to continue. Tanya returned to the office part-time, always with security nearby. Amara continued school with extra precautions in place. Christopher worked on expanding the security system at the estate and consulting with the prosecutor about strengthening their case. In the middle of all this stress, something beautiful happened. Tanya and Christopher stopped holding back. Their relationship, which had been cautious and careful, bloomed into something genuine and deep. One Saturday afternoon, Christopher took Tanya and Amara to a local animal shelter. Amara had been asking about getting a puppy for weeks, and Christopher decided surprises were in order. The shelter was bright and clean, full of barking dogs and hopeful energy. Amara's eyes went wide as they walked past cage after cage. "Can we really get one, Mama? Really?" "If we find the right one," Tanya agreed, smiling at Christopher over her daughter's head. They found him in the last row. A golden retriever mix, about 2 years old, with the sweetest brown eyes and a tail that wagged his entire back end. His name tag said Buddy, and he had been at the shelter for 6 months, overlooked for younger puppies. The moment Christopher opened the cage, Buddy walked directly to Amara and sat down, placing one paw on her knee. Amara squealed with delight and threw her arms around his neck. "I think he chose us," Christopher said. "He's perfect." Amara looked up at her mother with pleading eyes. "Please, Mama. Please." Tanya looked at the dog, at her daughter's joy, at Christopher's encouraging smile. "Okay. Yes. Let's bring him home." The adoption process took an hour, but Buddy was worth the wait. On the drive home, he sat in the back seat with Amara, his head on her lap, completely content. Tanya watched them in the rearview mirror and felt her heart overflow. This was family. This was what happiness looked like. That evening, they made spaghetti together in Christopher's kitchen while Buddy explored his new home. Christopher taught Amara how to measure pasta correctly. Tanya made her grandmother's secret tomato sauce recipe. They laughed and talked and made a mess, and it was perfect. After dinner, while Amara played with Buddy in the living room, Tanya and Christopher cleaned up together. It felt domestic and right, this simple act of partnership. "Thank you for today," Tanya said, drying dishes. "For Buddy. For making Amara so happy. I didn't do it just for Amara." Christopher set down the pot he was washing and turned to face her. "I did it for all of us. Because we're a family now, aren't we? Are we? I want us to be. Really be. Not just playing house, not just temporary. I want this to be our life, Tanya. You, me, Amara, Buddy, all of it." Tanya set down her dish towel. "Christopher, we've only known each other for 4 months. I don't care. Some people know in 4 minutes. I know what I feel. I know what I want." He took her hands in his. "I'm not asking you to marry me tonight. I'm just asking you to stay. To build this life with me. To let yourself believe this is real." Tears spilled down Tanya's cheeks. "I want to. So much. But what about Brandon? What if? Brandon doesn't get to decide our future. We do." Christopher wiped her tears gently with his thumbs. "Whatever happens, we face it together. And when he's finally out of our lives for good, we celebrate. We build the life we deserve. Tanya nodded, unable to speak past the emotion clogging her throat. I love you, Tanya Robinson. I love your strength, your kindness, your fierce love for your daughter. I love how you transformed employee wellness into something that actually matters. I love how you make me want to be better, do better. He smiled. I even love how you steal the last cookie when you think I'm not looking. Tanya laughed through her tears. You noticed that? I always notice you. Christopher kissed her softly. So what do you say? Will you let me love you? Will you love me back? Will you trust that this is going somewhere good? Yes. The word came out strong and certain. Yes to all of it. They kissed again, longer this time, and Tanya felt something loosen in her chest. The last bit of fear, the last piece of doubt. She was choosing this. Choosing love. Choosing hope. Mr. Chris. Mama. Come see what Buddy can do. Amara's excited voice called from the living room. They pulled apart, laughing, and went to see whatever trick Buddy had accidentally performed. The rest of the evening was filled with laughter and play and the simple joy of being together. Later, after Amara was asleep in her room with Buddy curled at the foot of her bed, Christopher and Tanya sat on the couch in front of the fire. Tanya leaned against his shoulder, his arm around her waist, completely comfortable. Tell me about your dreams again, Christopher said quietly. The real ones. Tanya thought about it. I want to expand the wellness program. Maybe start including mental health services, not just physical health. I want Amara to go to college someday, study whatever makes her happy. She paused. I want to marry you. Someday. When we're ready. When everything is settled. Christopher's arm tightened around her. I want that too. All of it. And I want to adopt Amara, if she and you would want that. Give her my name. Make it official. She'd love that. She already thinks of you as her dad. Good. Because I think of her as my daughter. Christopher was quiet for a moment. I never knew I wanted kids until I met her. Now I can't imagine my life without her. Without either of you. We can't imagine our lives without you either. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire burn down to embers. Outside, security lights illuminated the grounds. Guards kept watch. But inside this room, inside this moment, everything was safe and warm and right. 2 days later the call came. Brandon had violated his bail conditions by attempting to contact Tanya through a third party. Police arrested him immediately. The prosecutor moved to revoke his bail completely. He'll stay in jail until trial now, Christopher's lawyer confirmed. And with the new violations we're looking at additional charges. He's likely looking at 12 to 15 years minimum. The news should have felt like a complete victory, but Tanya remained cautious. When is the trial? January. 2 months away. And they want you to testify. Tanya's stomach clenched with anxiety, but she nodded. I'll do it. I'll tell them everything. He doesn't get to scare me anymore. Christopher held her hand through the difficult conversation with the prosecutor. He promised to be there at the trial, to support her through every moment. She believed him. She trusted him. And that trust was worth more than all his money and resources combined. As November turned to December, their lives settled into a new normal. Tanya worked at Bennett Technologies, making real differences in employee health and happiness. Amara thrived in school and at home with Buddy. Christopher balanced running his company with being present for his new family. And through it all, love grew. Not the desperate, needy kind that Tanya had known before. This was steady and strong, built on respect and partnership. Built on choosing each other every single day. One evening in mid-December, snow falling gently outside the windows, Christopher pulled Tanya aside after dinner. I have something for you. Early Christmas present. He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a key and a piece of paper. What's this? The deed to the guest house. It's yours now. Legally. No matter what happens between us, you and Amara always have a home. Christopher's expression was serious. I never want you to feel dependent on me or trapped. I want you to know you have options always. Tanya stared at the paper, tears blurring her vision. The guest house was worth at least $500,000. He was just giving it to her. No strings, no conditions. Christopher, I can't accept this. Yes, you can. And you will. Because I love you and I want you to feel secure. He cupped her face gently. I'm not Brandon. I'll never use money or power to control you. This is about making sure you know you're safe no matter what. Tanya threw her arms around him, crying into his shoulder. How are you this good? How is any of this real? It's real because we made it real. Because we chose hope and kindness over fear. He held her close. And because your daughter knocked on my door and gave me a chance to be better than I was. That night, tucked in bed, Tanya looked at the deed in her hands. Her name, her home, her security, and a man who loved her enough to make sure she never felt trapped again. This was what healing looked like. This was what love should be. And Tanya was done questioning whether she deserved it. She deserved every good thing. They all did. January arrived cold and bright, bringing with it the trial date. Tanya prepared as best she could, reviewing her testimony with the prosecutor, practicing staying calm under pressure. Christopher held her hand through every practice session, every moment of doubt. The day before the trial, Tanya was home with Amara when the doorbell rang. She checked the security camera, her heart rate spiking automatically. But it was just a delivery person with flowers. She opened the door to find an enormous arrangement of red roses and blue hydrangeas. The card read, "You are the bravest person I know. Tomorrow you tell your truth. I'll be right beside you. Always, Christopher." Tanya pressed the card to her chest, feeling courage build in her bones. She could do this. She had survived the attack. She had rebuilt her life. She could face Brandon in court and tell the world what he had done. The trial lasted 3 days. Tanya testified on the second day, walking into the courtroom with Christopher, Patricia, Grace, and Jerome all there to support her. Brandon sat at the defense table looking angry and defeated, his expensive lawyer beside him. When Tanya took the stand, the prosecutor asked her to explain the history of abuse. She told them everything. The first time Brandon hit her. The way he isolated her from friends and family. The night he pushed her down the stairs, breaking her arm. The fears she lived with for years. Her decision to finally leave. And then the brutal attack by his associates that nearly killed her. She spoke clearly and honestly, never looking at Brandon. She was done giving him any power over her. Brandon's lawyer tried to make her seem unreliable, suggesting she was lying to get money from Christopher. But Tanya stayed calm, answering every question with simple truth. She had medical records. She had police reports. She had witnesses. The truth was on her side. Kyle Porter and Todd Harrison, the men who attacked her, both testified against Brandon. They admitted he sent them to Tanya's apartment, told them to scare her into paying money she did not have. Their testimony was damning. On the third day, the jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before returning a guilty verdict. Brandon Tucker was convicted on multiple charges: conspiracy to commit assault, domestic violence, witness intimidation. The judge set sentencing for the following month but indicated Brandon was looking at 12 years minimum. When the verdict was read, Tanya felt Christopher's hand squeeze hers. Amara, who had stayed home with Patricia, was safe and would grow up without fear of her father. Justice had been served. Outside the courthouse, Tanya breathed in cold winter air and felt truly free for the first time in her adult life. "It's over," Christopher said quietly. "Really over." "It is." Tanya turned to face him. "And now we get to live. Really live." They drove home in comfortable silence. That evening, after Amara was asleep, Christopher asked Tanya to join him in the living room. He seemed nervous, which was unusual for him. "What's wrong?" Tanya asked. "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. That's what I want to talk about." Christopher took her hands in his. "You've been living in the guest house for almost 7 months now. Amara calls me Dad even though it's not official yet. We're a family in every way that matters except one." "Christopher. Let me finish." He smiled nervously. "I know this is fast. I know we said we'd take things slow. But Tanya, I love you more than I knew it was possible to love someone. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to raise Amara together. I want to grow old with you." He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a simple but beautiful diamond ring set in platinum. "Tanya Robinson, will you marry me? Will you move into this big empty house with me and fill it with love and laughter and family? Will you let me be Amara's dad officially and legally? Will you build a future with me?" Tanya looked at the ring, at Christopher's hopeful face, at this life they had created together from nothing. 6 months ago, she had been bleeding on her apartment floor, certain she was dying. Now she was here, healthy and safe, with a man who loved her without conditions. "Yes." The word came out strong and clear. "Yes to everything. Yes." Christopher slipped the ring onto her finger, and they kissed as snow began to fall outside the windows. When they finally pulled apart, both were crying and laughing at the same time. "When?" Christopher asked. "When do you want to get married?" "Soon. Spring maybe. Something simple with the people we love." "Perfect." He kissed her again. "And you'll move into the main house? Help me make it a real home." "We will." but we're keeping the guest house. Maybe use it for visitors. Or as an art studio for Amara when she's older. Christopher laughed. Deal. Speaking of Amara, should we tell her now? They walked upstairs together and gently woke the sleeping child. Buddy raised his head from the foot of the bed but did not get up, content to stay where he was. Amara, sweetheart, wake up. We have something to tell you. Amara sat up, rubbing her eyes. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's perfect. Tanya showed her the ring. Mr. Chris asked me to marry him. We're going to be a family. Amara's eyes went huge. Then she launched herself at them both, hugging them fiercely. Really? For real? He's going to be my real dad. For real, Christopher confirmed. If that's okay with you. It's more than okay. It's the best thing ever. Amara looked between them with pure joy. Can I be in the wedding? Can I wear a pretty dress? Can Buddy be in it too? They all laughed, piling onto Amara's bed together, the three of them and the dog talking about wedding plans in the future. It was messy and perfect and real. Later, after Amara fell back asleep, Christopher and Tanya returned to the living room. They had so much to plan, so much to look forward to. But for tonight, they just sat together, wearing matching rings, watching snow fall outside. I never thought I'd have this, Tanya said quietly. A home. Real love. A partner who respects me. It feels like a dream. It's not a dream. It's just life when you let good people in. Christopher kissed her temple. And you've taught me so much about what matters. About opening doors for people. About kindness and second chances. We taught each other. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, then Tanya spoke again. I want to do something. With my position at the company. I want to start a program for survivors of domestic violence. Help them get jobs, provide counseling, assist with housing. Women like me who just need a chance. I love that idea. Let's make it happen. Whatever resources you need. Thank you. For everything. For giving us this life. Thank you for letting me be part of it. As the clock struck midnight, marking a new day, Tanya thought about the little girl who had run through a storm to save her mother. That desperate knock on Christopher's door had changed everything. Had given them all a second chance at happiness. Sometimes all it took was one person opening a door. One person choosing kindness over convenience. One person believing that everyone deserved help, hope, and love. Christopher had been that person for them. And now, together, they would be that for others. The future stretched ahead, bright and full of possibility. And Tanya was ready to embrace all of it. 1 year and 3 days had passed since that desperate knock on Christopher Bennett's door. Tanya stood in front of the full-length mirror in the guest house, the place that had been her first real home in so long. Now it served as the bridal suite for her wedding day. Her wedding dress was simple and elegant, cream-colored rather than white, with a fitted bodice and flowing skirt. The color looked beautiful against her brown skin. She wore blue sapphire earrings that Christopher had given her, something blue for tradition. Her hair was styled in soft curls, and her makeup was light and natural. Patricia fussed with the veil, making sure everything was perfect. Grace adjusted the hem of the dress, her eyes misty with happy tears. You look absolutely beautiful, Patricia said. Christopher is going to cry when he sees you. He better not cry before I do, Tanya laughed. I worked hard on this makeup. A small knock on the door, then Amara burst in wearing a red flower girl dress with a white ribbon. At 7 years old, she was taller and more confident than the terrified child who had run through the storm. Her hair was done in elaborate braids with white flowers woven through. Mama, everyone is here. The garden looks so pretty. And Buddy has a bow tie. Amara twirled to show off her dress. Do I look okay? You look perfect, baby. Tanya knelt down, careful of her dress, and hugged her daughter. Are you ready for this? Ready to be a real family? I've been ready forever. Amara's smile was pure sunshine. I love Mr. Chris. He's the best dad. Tears threatened, but Tanya blinked them back. Today was for happiness, for celebration, for beginnings. The ceremony was set in Christopher's garden, the one where Amara had planted flowers months ago. Those flowers had grown tall and beautiful, blooming in bright reds and blues and yellows. White chairs were arranged in neat rows, an aisle runner laid between them. An arch covered in more flowers marked where Tanya and Christopher would exchange vows. Only 50 guests attended. Close friends, important co-workers, the people who had supported them through the difficult journey. No one from Tanya's past was there. She had no family left, no friends from before who had stuck around. But she had chosen family now, people who loved her by choice rather than obligation. Jerome would walk her down the aisle, having offered when he learned she had no one. Grace sat in the front row, tissues already in hand. Patricia had helped plan everything, treating it like her own daughter's wedding. Music started, soft and beautiful. Amara walked down the aisle first, carefully dropping flower petals from a white basket. Buddy followed, his golden coat brushed to shine, wearing a blue bow tie and carrying the rings in a small bag attached to his collar. The guests laughed and took pictures as the dog proudly trotted to the front. Then it was Tanya's turn. Jerome offered his arm, his expression proud. Ready? So ready. They walked together down the aisle, and Tanya saw Christopher waiting at the front. He wore a dark navy suit with a blue tie that matched Amara's dress ribbon. His eyes were wet with tears, but he was smiling wider than she had ever seen. When Tanya reached him, Jerome placed her hand in Christopher's, then stepped back to sit beside Patricia. Christopher squeezed her fingers gently. "Hi," he whispered. "Hi yourself." The officiant, a kind woman named Rachel who worked at Bennett Technologies, began the ceremony. But Tanya barely heard the traditional words. She was too focused on Christopher's face, on the love she saw there, on the future they were about to officially begin. When it came time for vows, Christopher went first. "Tanya, when a little girl knocked on my door a year ago, I had no idea my life was about to change completely. You taught me what real strength looks like. You taught me that kindness and hope can transform everything. You taught me how to be part of a family, how to love without holding back." His voice cracked slightly. "I promise to honor you, to respect you, to never take for granted the gift of your trust. I promise to be the father Amara deserves. I promise to build a life with you that's full of laughter and love and all the good things you were denied for too long. I choose you, Tanya. Today and every day for the rest of my life." Tanya wiped tears from her cheeks before starting her own vows. "Christopher, you saved my life. Not just by calling 911 or paying hospital bills, but by showing me what real love looks like. You taught me that accepting help is strength, not weakness. You gave Amara safety and stability and a father who adores her. You gave me a career I'm proud of and opportunities to help others." She took a shaky breath. "I promise to love you fiercely and honestly. I promise to be your partner in everything. I promise to never stop fighting for our family and this beautiful life we've built. You opened your door when you could have turned away. Now I'm opening my heart completely. I choose you, Christopher. Forever." The ring exchange was simple. Buddy brought the rings forward to much applause and laughter. Christopher slid a platinum band onto Tanya's finger to join her engagement ring. She placed a matching band on his finger, sealing their promises. "By the power vested in me," Rachel said with a huge smile, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. Christopher, you may kiss your bride." Christopher pulled Tanya close and kissed her deeply while their guests cheered. Amara ran up and hugged them both, sandwiched between her parents. When they pulled apart, all three were crying and laughing. "We did it," Tanya whispered. "We did it," Christopher agreed. The reception was held right there in the garden, with tables set up under strings of lights. The caterers served simple but delicious food. A small band played music while people danced on the temporary floor laid over the grass. During dinner, Jerome stood and tapped his glass for attention. "I'd like to make a toast. I've known Christopher for 5 years, and I've never seen him happier than he's been this past year. Tanya, you brought light into his life. You made him remember what matters most. And Amara, you're the bravest kid I've ever met." He raised his glass. "To the Bennett family. May your love continue to grow and your life together be everything you deserve." To the Bennetts, everyone echoed, glasses raised. Later in the evening, as the sun set and the lights twinkled overhead, Christopher and Tanya had their first dance as husband and wife. The band played a slow, romantic song, and they swayed together, completely absorbed in each other. "Happy?" Christopher asked. "Happier than I ever imagined possible." "Good. Because I have a surprise." "Another one?" "Christopher, you've given me everything already." "Not everything. Not yet." He smiled mysteriously. "I've been working with my lawyer. The adoption papers for Amara are finalized. As of yesterday, I'm legally her father." Tanya stopped dancing, tears streaming freely now. "Really? It's done?" "It's done. She's officially Amara Bennett. My daughter." They found Amara dancing with Buddy in a corner of the garden. Christopher knelt down to her level. "I have something to tell you. Remember all those meetings with the lawyer? All those papers we signed?" Amara nodded, suddenly serious. "They were adoption papers. And as of yesterday, I'm officially your dad. You're Amara Bennett now. My daughter." Amara's face went through several emotions before settling on pure joy. She launched herself at Christopher, wrapping her arms around his neck. Really truly? Forever? Really truly forever. I love you, Dad. Christopher held his daughter tight, tears rolling down his face. I love you too, sweet pea. Tanya joined their hug, the three of them holding each other while their guests watched with misty eyes. This was family. This was love. This was everything. As the party wound down and guests began leaving with hugs and congratulations, Tanya stood on the porch of the main house, now officially her home. She looked back at the guest house where her journey to healing had begun. She thought about the woman she had been a year ago, broken and terrified and certain life would always be a struggle. That woman would never believe this moment was real. Would never believe she deserved this happiness. But she did deserve it. They all did. Penny, for your thoughts? Christopher came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Just thinking about how far we've come. How much has changed. Everything changed. In the best possible way. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't opened the door that night? If you just called 911 and let them handle it? Christopher turned her to face him. I think about it all the time. I think about how close I came to missing the most important thing that ever happened to me. But I did open the door. I did let you and Amara into my life. And I thank whatever force in the universe made that happen every single day. They stood together, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. Inside the house, Amara played with Buddy while Patricia cleaned up. Their friends would come tomorrow to help with final cleanup. Tonight was just for them. What happens next? Tanya asked. After the honeymoon, after all of this? We live. We work. We raise Amara. We help other people the way I was able to help you. We build programs at the company for survivors who need chances. We create a foundation in Amara's name to help kids in difficult situations. Christopher smiled. We make our lives matter. I like that plan. Me too. He kissed her softly. Ready to start forever, Mrs. Bennett? So ready. They walked into the house together, closing the door behind them on the best day of their lives. But tomorrow would bring new bests. And the day after that. Because this was not an ending. This was just the beginning. A year ago, a desperate little girl had knocked on a door, begging for help. That single act of bravery had set in motion a chain of events that saved lives, healed hearts, and built a family. It proved that kindness mattered. That hope was worth holding onto. That love could heal the deepest wounds. Christopher and Tanya had both been lonely before they met. Both had been missing something essential. Now they were complete, not because they fixed each other but because they chose to build something together. Something stronger than either could create alone. In the years that followed, their story would inspire others. The domestic violence program Tanya created at Bennett Technologies would help hundreds of women escape dangerous situations and rebuild their lives. The foundation they established would provide scholarships for children from difficult homes. Amara would grow up strong and confident, eventually becoming a social worker herself, helping families like her own had been. But on this night, their wedding night, none of that mattered. What mattered was this moment. This family. This love. Tanya Robinson Bennett, formerly a woman who had lost everything, now had it all. Not because a billionaire rescued her, though he had. Not because she was lucky, though she was. But because she had been brave enough to survive, strong enough to heal, and wise enough to accept help when it was offered with genuine kindness. And Christopher Bennett, formerly a lonely man drowning in success but starving for connection, now had purpose and family and love. Not because he was wealthy, though that helped. But because he had been kind enough to open his door, generous enough to help without expecting return, and loving enough to build a real family with people who needed him as much as he needed them. Together they proved a simple truth. Sometimes all it takes is one moment of bravery, one act of kindness, one open door to change everything. Their story was not perfect. There would be challenges ahead, disagreements and difficulties and days when they struggled. But they would face everything together as a family, choosing love and hope and kindness every single time. And that choice, made again and again day after day, would be enough. More than enough. Would be everything.